So thanks, David, for that introduction and introducing everyone to what Office Hours is. So my name is Thomas Davis, and I work on the team with Adam and David. And today we're going to talk about performance analytics and reporting on mobile dashboards. So mobile dashboards themselves, as that title, is something new with Orlando. But you have been able to actually do some reporting on mobile in the past, but today we'll talk about the way that it looks in Orlando and going forward. There we go. So what is performance analytics and reporting on mobile dashboards? So mobile dashboards is an applet launcher. So this is something that you actually create within the studio. So that's where all of the work is done to actually create the reporting, whether it be PA or reporting itself. It's all done inside the studio, and you create applet launchers that then are within the mobile app themselves that actually lets you see the reportings that is out there. So again, you'll create an applet launcher that enables you to see, you know, pre-configured reports that are out there. It does actually let you use existing reports that are out there and existing indicators that are out there as well. So that does make it easy. Obviously, you can create new ones that are specific for your mobile if you choose to, or you can use exactly what's out there currently. So you have the you tap chart UI sections. There's sections on that, and you'll see here in a little bit exactly what I'm talking about. So you're able to click on those and get to further details. With charts, you'll be able to go to a more expanded view of the chart. If it's a single score, then you would go to a potential list view of those results. And then inside of the PA indicator, the widget, you would see further details there as well. So again, so performance analytics charts display, you have the ability to display, you know, KPIs over time. And then reporting, obviously, just like it is in the platform, gives you some current stats of the instant data that's out there. So there are definitely some docs that are out there on the ServiceNow doc site that you can definitely find more information beyond what we're actually going to share today as well. So here's some perspectives. So the mobile platform, so again, as this is new with Orlando, not actually seeing reports on the mobile, that is not new, but the actual dashboard sort of version of this is new in Orlando. So there would be no upgrade challenges that you would experience actually being able to do this. It would just simply come with upgrading to Orlando. So the reports and PAs, so again, you can reuse for mobile the existing reports and PAs that are out there. And again, these may have been ones that were configured for the web, but you can definitely use those. Now there are specific types of reports and PA that you can use, not all of them, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But if they are ones that are already out there, you definitely can use those. Obviously, it's always advised to make sure that you do thorough testing to make sure that the reports or PA that you choose to use will work and will look the way that you hope it will look when it's in the mobile app. So why would you do this, right? So all the time you should be thinking about improving your user's experience. And some of the ways that you can do it with mobile is obviously the direct access to KPIs anywhere. So it doesn't require you to have a laptop. If you have a mobile device and you can connect to your instance via a mobile app, then you definitely can see these things right on the fly. And then you can create, you know, some persona-based mobile dashboards. So ones that are specific to the different personas that are out there. And then, you know, another one is, you know, try to create things that emphasize proactive use cases. So things that when they actually look at it, they're going to be able to make a decision right then and there. Not that reactive is bad, but just trying to push in a direction of giving, you know, the users, no matter what level that is, the ability to do something right then based on the data that they're actually looking at to hopefully curve something that potentially is happening. So definitely always think about your user experience when you're creating it, and that is not unlike doing it at the desktop and the platform itself. So that is a big thing to do there. So we're going to talk about what reports and widgets are actually supported. So for the reporting charts, there's two there. So a single score and then time series. So with a single score, you would actually see, you know, you would see a score very similar to this. And then when you clicked on it, you would go to a list view. And then if it happens to be a time series report, which actually not shown on this preview, when you clicked on it, it would go to a chart as well. So currently, there's only 4 time series charts that are available with it: area, line, spline, and step, which only leaves out one, which is the bar or the column, and it's not available in this current release. But I know that they're constantly working on development and making more accessible, so I would expect that it would be in a future release as well. So the flow, and when we talk about flow, we're talking about what happens when you go from one screen to the next screen. So for a single score flow, basically, like I was saying a few moments ago, basically what happens is you see a score, and you'll have a score that'll have a title, and it'll tell you what it is. And then when you click on that, you'll actually go to the list of those particular, in this example, we would say incidents, right? So there's 20 incidents there, and you would actually go to those particular incidents. So there is another level that you can go, and we don't show that in this presentation, but just so you know that it's out there. So you can actually create a form on the list view itself. So then you would actually be able to click on a particular incident and actually go in and have the ability to actually edit that incident directly on the mobile device as well. We don't show that here in the presentation today, but I just want to make sure that you know that that availability is out there, where you could go all the way down to the incident level or whatever you're actually looking at it, whether it be request, change, or whatnot, and actually go to the level where you could actually change that, maybe assign an incident to yourself, or assign an incident to someone else, or even just look at the information that's in it. So some supported functionalities. So the aggregation type is there. Default color, that is what is out there, is currently what comes with it. You have some coloring rules that you can definitely apply to it as well. Displaying 0, and the chart title is there. Some of the functionalities that are not supported currently is the ability to do a drill down view. So if you created another report that you drilled down from one to the other, you can't do that in mobile. So basically all you have is from the score to the list view. And then title styling options. What you see there is what comes default, and currently that is the most that you can do with it. So for time series, the flow generally will look like this. So you'll have a time series report, which looks like this, and you basically will click on it, and then you'll get to the, and this is the preview, and then you'll actually get to the chart, and you can interact with this chart. So you can actually click on a point, any one of those points, and this score would change. And then you have the ability to zoom in and out. And then this spark line that's down at the bottom gives you the ability to know exactly where you are if you do choose to zoom. And then when you actually click on it, it would take you to the list view. Now, one of the things that make sure you understand that even though you click on a particular point in the chart, when you actually drill down, which is via this icon up here, you actually don't drill down from clicking the chart itself. You have to click the icon, which takes you to a list view. And that list view will be the, in this case, incidents that make up this chart as a whole. At this point, the particular, right now in the release, this particular point that you click on does not filter the list view that you get. It will be all of the incidents that actually make up this particular chart. So, and we talk about that here. So, you know, whether it be on a day, a month, a quarter, whatnot, when you click on that, understand that when it drills down to the actual list of incidents or whatever it may be, it will not be just the incidents for that point in time. It will be everything that makes up the chart as a whole. So I know that they are working on to change that in future releases, but that's the way it is currently. So time series for what is supported with the time series. So you can have multiple lines, grouping by multiple data sets. You can do that, but only one level of the grouping is supported. The chart title is there, chart colors again. The y-axis label is there, and then accessibility line pattern, and that's based on what your actual device itself supports. So what's not supported is additional group bys. Again, it's only one. Displaying the data table at the bottom of the chart is not available. And again, drill down view just like the single score. And all the other configurations as it relates to the style tab in the platform, if it's not listed here as supported, it's not supported as well. Okay. So for performance analytics, currently there's only one widget or chart that is available, and that is the single score PA widget that is out there. And the visualization is the latest score, and the template is not affected in this. It has a default template that comes on the mobile, so you're not actually able to change that template as well. But this is what this would look like. So again, you would see the date, you would see the score, of course the title, and you would see the scoring based on if it was minimum or maximum, which direction that you were actually going based on that indicator. And then of course it would tell you, when that was from. So, and then when you click on it, you can actually, then it will turn it into a chart. And then, but you can make that decision during development, whether you want it to be a chart or just a list view. You can do that directly in Studio. And here you can actually, it is interactive as well. And then you can click and move. And if there's a, here you can say see there was a target for this particular example. So you actually can see those targets as well. And this, the spark line is there just like in the time series. So it actually will tell you where you're at if you decide to zoom in and out. So you can actually see that as well. So what you'll get, so like I was just talking to you there a little bit about that. So this is kind of what you get from a preview to the indicator, the time of change, the score, the time of change, compared to date, and of course the title. So the way that it is in the platform, when you obviously click on a widget, and if it's set up to go to the, if the indicator itself is set up to go to the Analytics Hub, you obviously don't get all of what you get in the Analytics Hub in the mobile. But development is constantly going on with this. So the future will definitely bring more interaction and more of what you can actually see when you click into a PA score inside of the mobile app. So, I would just look that those abilities would increase as the future goes forward. So what is supported with a single score? So the change color, which I talked about a little bit ago, the direction property, that is there just like when you set it at the indicator. And again, if there's a target and a gap collection, it'll show that in the latest score. However, it's not supported in the ALP, in the applet launcher, but it will actually show if there's one that's, if there's a target that's actually set at the indicator itself. So what's not supported? Again, a template, right? The only one that is available is the latest score. The score color, it is what you see here is by default. The score and the compared to date with the scores U30 and the screenshot, only on the desktop. It's not in this particular release. And then the value when nil is not supported currently as well. So next we'll talk about sort of how it works when you actually create the different levels of what you're going to put in your mobile app. So chart sections and previews. So basically what a chart section is what you see when you first open up your mobile app and you go to wherever your reporting is at. So it would be this, it would be the score. The scores that you see, and then of course, if there was a time series, you would actually see that chart as well. So you have sections. So what that means is that you can have two types of sections. You can have a single score, or you can have a preview of a time series report. So if you have a single score report and then a single score PA widget, those can be in the same section, which is actually what you're seeing here, but you would have a different section for a time series report. So it may be, lower down here on your list or whatnot, but this, from a section perspective, time series and single score cannot go into the same section. So again, like I said, it cannot contain both. So an admin can configure a navigation button on each score and time series preview, and then when you tap on it, it'll navigate to the report or the widget details, which we've talked about a little bit before. So in this case, when you click here, it may go to your group incidents, and this is actually two screens here of what it would look like scrolling. So this would be a time series section, and this would be a time series section as well. Just know that you can't have single score and time series within the same section. So the recommended flows, we talked about this a little bit before. So from a single score report, it would obviously navigate to a list view, which is a list screen. The latest score PA widget would navigate to the widget detail screen, which we talked about as the chart screen. And then a time series report would navigate to the time series screen, which is where you can interact with it. And then, of course, it would navigate to the list screen, which would be the actual list of, in this case, incidents that you were looking at on that time series. So again, understand if you click on a particular point in that time series, that is not the list view that you will see. You'll see all of what makes up that particular time series chart. So again, chart sections contain single score. So here you can see what that looks like, and you do have the ability to do vertical or horizontal, and you can actually see what that looks like here. So if you were wanted them a vertical, which is the default, this is where it would be. But if you wanted them horizontal, you want them next to each other, you can definitely do that as well within the section itself. And then of course the time series. It just comes the way that it is, but this is the way that it would look on that first screen in order for you to click into it and actually do more. So the time series report, again, the graph itself is not interactive. The first graph is not interactive, but when you click into it, that chart screen is interactive. The mobile app applies number formatting on the y-axis. So they're always short and fit the preview. You will not see the x-axis details, and that is only because it doesn't know how much potential data could be there. So for an example, if you were looking at something daily for a month preview, obviously that could be 30 down on that x-axis, and it just, from a mobile standpoint, could get bulky, could not necessarily look the best. So currently the default is actually to not even show that x-axis at all. And you can see that here. So there is no x-axis on the bottom of these, but you definitely have the y-axis. So the chart screen. So chart screen is after you've clicked on the preview, which is the very first thing that you see. When you click on that, then what is the chart screen that you're actually going to see? So again, when you click on it, the section, you go to it, and then this is what you would see. So for a time series report, so when we clicked on it, then you would actually go into it, and this is where you can actually click on particular points. The score would change up here. You can pinch and zoom and you know, bring it in and out, and again, your spark line would continue to tell you where you're at. And then one of the other things which we're not showing here, but you'll notice on your mobile, is when you do zoom, a little icon will actually come up, a little refresh icon. So rather than you having to zoom out, you can actually click on that and it'll take it back to the way it was from the default. And then for a PA widget, this is what the chart screen would look like. So again, you know, if you had a target there or whatnot, it would show that. It would show everything that was in the actual preview, score, direction, colors, targets, and then again, the spark line is there, zoom in and out, and that same refresh button would be on that chart as well, so you wouldn't have to zoom it back out. It would do that for you on the fly. And each one of the charts have a dedicated header which shows the selected coordinates information. So again, when you click on it, it would show that. And that is not configurable. That it comes just the way that it is out of the box, so you can't actually change that. So the chart screens, what do you have on them? So again, the chart title for time series, you have a chart title. You have the Y value, you have the selected coordinate percentage calculation, and then the select coordinate X value. That's what you'll actually see there when you're into the actual chart screen itself. And for PA, you can see the chart title. Again, this is by default. You can't change that. What it's called is what it'll show. The selected X value and the selected Y value, and the change value and compared to the previous score, target gap calculations if it's configured at the widget level. So this is kind of the mobile interaction, which kind of talks about what you'll get when you click on a PA score, and how you're actually able to work with it and what you're actually able to see. So again, you know, you'll have the pinching for zoom in and out. And you can see that, and actually we'll have a demo here in a little bit where you can see that I've done that. You have the full zoom out button, so this is the one that I was referring to, so it'll go back to the way it was default. The Y values number for formatting. Again, the spark line, so that again lets you see where you're at in the chart, and it also allows the user to easily move the chart. So if you want to go further in the chart or previous in the chart, you can do that with the spark line. And then again, this is optimized for landscape mode, so which is without the spark line. So if you were to turn your phone, it would actually change that. And then the accessibility mode, support for multi-line charts. And again, this is based on device setting if your device is able to do that. So again, here you can see, you know, if we were to turn our phone landscape or horizontal, you can see that this is what the chart would then look like. You can see that the spark line is no longer there just because it makes it wider and it gives you more to see anyway. And then if you had multiple lines in there, you could definitely click on any one of those and see that for the same. So a quick demo that we'll have here. So so this is just kind of shows you what is out there and the different ways that you can actually see it. So obviously this is what a dashboard would look like in the platform from a desktop version perspective. And that, you know, that's not anything new that anybody here, that's the way that it looks. This is what it would look like if you were to actually make this dashboard a favorite in your platform and then log into your instance, the desktop version of your instance, and you would see that this is what it would look like on the mobile, which is just like this, but it's obviously smaller on the mobile screen. But this is that same information that's actually in the mobile dashboard. So you can see that it's been tuned and optimized so it looks much better. It's much cleaner. Obviously, there's no wasted space that's on the screen, and you can definitely scroll if you had more there. And these are, again, the previews, and you would definitely click into these to go a little bit further. So let's see what that looks like. So here you can see a single score. And I know you can't see that I've actually clicked on the icon or the actual preview, but here you click on, so what I did is I actually click on the 158 here, and then it actually goes to the list of those 158 incidents. So again, if you remember earlier, I was telling that you actually can go a further step on this. So you can actually create a form again on that list inside of Studio. When you actually create the list view, you can put a form on it, and then it would actually let you go into each one of these particular incidents and edit if you had the permissions to do that, or actually see more information about that. So this is the way that a single score looks on the mobile device. So next we have the time series. So again, I would click on the time series, and then it would actually go into the time series. And again, you can click on a specific point wherever you want. And just like the inside the platform, you can actually remove particular lines in the legend if you chose to do that. You can zoom in and out, which it'll actually do there. And there's your spark line that's actually reacting to that. And again, I clicked on that refresh button, so it took it all the way back. And then you click on the icon in the upper right, which I've already done, and you can actually see all those particular incidents. So again, understand that it will be all incidents that are within this particular time series. So when you create your whichever time series report that you choose to put into it, keep in mind how many results that you'll actually get back when you actually click into the list view of those. Okay. So next we have the PA single score, and again, I clicked on it, and it then will take you to the chart for that. And you can see here that I'm interacting with it as well. I can see my target, and then again, you can zoom in and out, and I'll do that here in a second. Pretty sure I did that. There we go. So I'm zooming into it, and you can see on your spark line, you can move back and forth, different positions in wherever the report is. Again, you can click on the refresh button, and it'll take you back to the way that it was. So, so obviously, I'm sure you've noticed that you don't have a record tab like you would have in the Analytics Hub. So you can't, drill down to the particular records from here, but it will give you insight into the actual, the whole chart as you see it. So there's some demos of the way that it looks actually in the mobile. I would definitely recommend, just from a tuning perspective and what's actually optimized for mobile, that you definitely try to look at it this way, create this within the studio, or get with whoever does create and have access to Studio to do that. So for your users, it'll work much better and look much better inside the mobile app using it this way. So with that in mind, obviously there's a lot of recommendations that are out there. There's a lot of links that are out there. I used a lot of that to actually make the Prezo today. But you definitely can go to Now Learning, and there is Mobile Development Fundamentals for Orlando. And this actually covers actually working within the studio if you have never done that before. So it will help you become familiar with creating and developing inside Studio, regardless if that happens to be reporting and PA or any other apps that you choose to develop out there. So I would definitely recommend, if you have no experience inside of Studio, definitely take this course so it can bring you up to date on many things and teach you a lot about the Studio itself. There is some K-20 content that you could definitely take advantage of that is out there as well. Getting started, or get started with Mobile Studio. So that would definitely complement the Mobile Development Fundamentals that's in Now Learning. I would definitely suggest you go there as well. And like David said at the beginning, the great thing about the labs that are in Now Learning now from K-20 is it will automatically spin up an instance, so you can actually do some of the things that are in the actual lab itself. And then there's Advanced Mobile Studio, which actually does reporting, build out some reporting inside of that lab itself. So again, that's a great one that you could look at. And of course, there's ServiceNow documentation that is out there. There's a couple links there, but there's a lot. There's quite a few that are actually out there. So I would definitely recommend, that you actually go and look at those as well. And they can definitely answer some quick questions that you may have when you're actually creating, or answer questions about what you're actually seeing if someone has already created some mobile reporting that's already out there for you. So definitely utilize all of those that are there, and of course you can always ask the community. There's people in the community that I'm sure have already been doing this, and you can definitely ask questions there. And if you have questions for me, definitely, put the question in the community, and you can definitely tag me, and I'll get back to you with the answer as soon as I possibly can. So with that, are there any questions? And I have not been paying attention to the QA, Adam and David, so I don't know if there's some questions that are already out there that maybe we can answer, or if not, we could potentially move on.
So there is a question. We'll answer the questions first, dealing with the mobile stuff. Is the Mobile Development Studio available in New York, or what version did that become available? Do you know?
So you can, again, the Studio is there in New York, obviously. The mobile dashboard, where it has the sections where you can put single score in a section and time series in a section, to actually make it look like a quote-unquote dashboard, that is new in Orlando. However, creating mobile reporting is there in New York. And I actually think that the very early phases of that was Madrid. So you had the ability to do some of that there, but just the optimizing and tuning the way that the dashboard version of it, that is new in Orlando.
Yeah, and I was just looking that it appears the Studio stuff started in Madrid.
Yeah.
As you said, and we're putting a major focus in this. So every release, you're going to see improvements in mobile, just every single release. And there'll be things that things are not backported. So if mobile is important to you, then making sure you're staying on top of the release notes and the new versions, you're going to see major improvements in every release going forward. All right. On-prem, always the question. Is this feature available to on-prem customers? Do you know if that's the case?
Actually, I don't know that, but I can definitely find that answer out. I need to look at the QA. So maybe whoever asked that particular question, maybe they can ask that in the community and tag me, and I'll get them an answer back.
Yeah, and I believe it is, as long as you can. It's still normal web services. So as long as if it's on-prem, as long as it's accessible from the internet, I believe it is. but I don't know if there's any features that are trimmed. Um, and your instance, again, if you have more security on top of it and blocking IP restrictions, all that stuff, you may have issues. But I think the fundamental functionality does work. But if you post in the community, we'll definitely follow up. If there are any other mobile ones, please post those in the Q&A. I'll go ahead and get started with a couple of the ones that are not directly related to mobile. First question that came up was about the labs. Apparently there's an issue with the developer instances right now. I believe that our labs are actually not run in that same pool of instances. The beautiful thing is that I don't actually have to know, they just work, but I believe they're not affected. And if they are, I'm sure that'll get fixed soon, but those labs are all there for you. And the instances should already be spun up. So if you go in and want to do one of the labs, you have an instance there that's set up just like you were at Knowledge, with all the right data and everything. So it should be very easy to do those labs. And I believe the lab instances stay around for a week or two. So if you start a lab, you have a week or two to finish it before we spin down. If you complete it, it might spin down sooner. I'm not sure. They don't last forever though. And it's not like a developer instance that stays around forever. As long as you keep using it, the labs have a finite amount of time so that you can do it, and we can.
I think it's just
for somebody else.
3 days, and that's it.
They might have tuned it down to 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
3 days.
So when you do plan, the labs are all targeted to be right around 100 minutes, plus or minus. It's self-paced, so it might be a little less, a little more, depending on what you're doing. But you should plan to finish it within a couple days. Otherwise, you'll have to start the lab over from the beginning, which may be an issue, may not, depending on the lab.
Yeah, and don't forget, every lab is basically intended not to last longer than 100 minutes. So
yes. Okay. We'll get into a couple more questions. Again, please feel free to put them in the Q&A. Another one came up about the on-demands. The on-demand sessions, I know we're going to be up through the rest of the year. And my understanding is they may never come down. The previous labs, I know from Knowledge 18 and Knowledge 19, that stuff is still up. It might move locations, might get adjusted, but that content will definitely be up for the rest of the year. And I would be a bit surprised if it came down before Knowledge 21. And I'd actually be a little bit surprised if it ever came down, right? That there's just some great information in there that stays important. And the follow-up to that one about fees for some of the on-demand courses. It depends. So the on-demand sessions will be up. The on-demand courses and Now Learning, those will be up. And the ones from Knowledge, I expect to be free. At some point, I would not be surprised if there were some fees for the courses, for the full courses. But I'm not aware of that right now. We're trying to get you as much content training that we can possibly put together. But that being said, if you have a 3-day in-person class, instructor led, there's a fee for that. I don't know if there'll be some limits or some advanced courses that do charge, but for us, we're trying to get you as much content as possible, and don't want to put any roadblocks like paying a couple $100. Okay, Zoom. A question came in. Again, easy ones first. When will Zoom?
Well, that's your order. I was thinking, what's Adam's logic in order?
Because maybe we'll run out of time. Will Zoom expand on the dashboard arrive on the desktop version? When can I Zoom expand full screen and report on a dashboard arrive in the desktop version? In the current experience, my guess, I haven't seen this on our roadmap. We're in the process of the UI transition, the new experience in workspaces, agent workspace. That might be something that arrives there, but it's not in Paris. And I don't know that it's being worked on right now. I know that it's been discussed, but I'm expecting we'll see more UI changes and enhancements like that when we're in the new experience over the next few releases. That one, though, I have not seen in the idea portal. Feel free to go to the idea portal in the community, and and ask for that. We even in the classic, even as we're going through, if we can, if there's something we can do, we'd certainly want to do it. But a lot of the UI changes I won't expect to see until we have the new experience in place. Okay, and now we'll get to the fun one, having to do with breakdown relations. Okay. So there's a question about breakdown relations and specifically relating to the PA 301 lab. And there's a link, reference to the Knowledge 18. There's a Knowledge 19 version and the Knowledge 20 version, I think was the last lab we got posted. So if you go into Now Learning, or you go into Knowledge and search for performance analytics hierarchies, you'll see the updated version of this lab, which I think Dan Kane, who's on the phone, together for.
Yeah, it's out there right now. There's still one minor tweak that's being done on one of the content on one of the blocks of it, but it is very, very minor. So all the content is there. And
okay, and this has to do with rollups, being rollups without scripting, and I believe what this is referring to is going to be with if we materialize the hierarchy. It's a bit difficult to know in this specific context. But with that, what I would say is take a look at the new lab and see if that answers your questions. And I think what you're referring to is materializing it in a hierarchy. Dan, do you know your lab number?
It's lab 1123.
I'll have a look and post the URL.
Yeah,
if I find it in time. And else you, Dan. Let's see who does it first.
Yeah, really. Come on.
And I believe that caps the 9 in knowledge. So if you were doing the labs before, there were new labs that came in from a bunch of them were in the first week, but they kept coming in and they're still showing up. But I believe they are all now there. Yeah. So the roll-ups has to do with materializing the hierarchy that walks through in that lab. And if you materialize the hierarchy, you don't have to use a script on the fly, but there still is some scripting or some place where that logic does have to happen, but we're front loading it. So that logic happens ahead of time. So instead of having to look to calculate the hierarchy every script for, say, user managers, we just put it in sysuser. When the manager changes somewhere in the hierarchy, recalculate it and store it. So that way we can use it in PA with just a simple breakdown, but we can also use it in reporting and other things as well. Okay. All right. We have a few more minutes. If there's any other questions, we can throw them in. You can throw them into the Q&A. We'll try and tackle those. Another one I think is going to come in. So we'll wait for you guys to type, and then
there's a couple of more. I don't know if you see them. Maybe not, because maybe you don't see them. I can ask them.
Yeah, please.
So Paul Waters asked 2 questions. So let's address those. There's a newbie question. We have over 25 assignment groups, and I need to create PA dashboards for CIO, directors, and managers that only show their assignment groups and not all groups. I've Googled, submitted on the community, still having issues. Can you help? Well, obviously we can help. I actually think that this is a pretty straightforward, and actually may have to do also with that roll-up question that you saw earlier coming by. So the answer that I gave you with the 1123 lab might be also worthwhile for you to check out, Paul. But what you want is most likely a combination of interactive filters, basically making sure that the data those personas see is related to their world, right? And to their level. So that's a combination of interactive filters and maybe indeed also some breakdown relations that you can use to, especially for the higher level personas like the CIO and the directors, to be able to limit the data to specific views for their hierarchies. I think we have some additional information also on our community in the best practice articles, and I'll look up some of the links and while Adam basically adds to what I just said.
Yeah, everything there was right. The one addition I'd put in is, in addition to interactive filters, just dynamic filters are good. Depending if the CIO might want to choose, so they're going to use an interactive filter to say which director do I want to drill into. But if you want to restrict the directors so they can only see theirs, then in addition to ACLs and security that you may want to do, but if you're just trying to personalize the dashboard, a dynamic filter with on a report source most likely is good, because it'll default to say where the best example would be where the assignment group manager department head is me. And then when the director comes in, they will only see things where the manager of the assignment group's department is that person. That's great for personalization. It's not great for a CIO who wants to be able to choose, right? So it's a combination depending on your use cases, a mix of them, but they're all based on the same thing. So the dynamic filter options are great, and there certainly is there's a couple posts in the community that walk through how to do that, but you have that. There's a bunch of tools for you. It really depends on what your use case is and what you're trying to do. Is it refine the data? Is it personalize the data? If you want to get into security, then we get into ACLs.
Yeah, and I actually think that there's some out-of-the-box content actually that's been delivered over the last couple of releases. That's already a good starting point, right? So the latest dashboards and reporting interactive widgets and PA content, basically they already take a certain persona in mind, and you basically get a dashboard fully filled out of the box. I'm trying to find that specific entry in the doc so that I can point you to it. So just
Perfect.
give me a minute as
Yes.
answer. And so as I do that, maybe Adam, you could elaborate a little bit on, there's a demo, or at least somewhere where we demonstrate a cost per incident indicator. Is there like an industry standard for dollar amount everybody else is using? And how do you configure the indicator or widget to show the data?
So cost per incident is, not everybody does it differently, but there are lots of different ways of calculating it. If you don't have a number, I think the numbers that people normally go with are Gartner or Forrester number. There are industry standards for those things. The problem is they fall apart pretty quickly in your organization, depending on your executives who are looking at that. So I know we're working on some projects to help do this, because every one of ServiceNow's customers want to ask that, but they all look at it differently. So whether I get billed, if I outsource my IT, I might actually have a cent per hour or cent per incident that I need, right? It's $7.32 per minute, that I get billed. So that's what I'm going to charge. Others just use those Forrester or Gartner numbers, and then others will look at the tier. For me, it depends. A password reset is a lot less than data recovery of a hard drive failing. So I look at tiers and categories, but there's a tremendous amount in there. If I'm just getting started, I would pick one of those industry standard numbers and use it. And then you use a formula indicator, simple formula indicator that just says this, number of incidents times $72. And that gives me a number. And it is very powerful. Instead of showing that we had 322 incidents, that we show the dollar value of what this comes out to be. So lots of great information.
All right. So that was answered live.
So hopefully that helps. But generally what you're going to see is a formula indicator to type it in. I'd use a manual indicator or another table as well, because that stuff changes. So like I said, we are working on some content pack actually to help you with this. It's something we want to see. And if you talk to your account executive, one way to look at it too, on a more holistic level about what you want to look at. The hardest part is not the technical side, but understanding what I want to calculate. With your account executive, you might be able to get some models that we use that help justify the purchase of ServiceNow in the first place. You can take a look at those and then you can start measuring them. That's what we're trying to work on. So talking to them about how you look at savings, not just per incident, but how do you break it down? You might have some more tools available to you to help you figure that out. Okay. Was there another question that you had, David?
Yeah, that one was all the way at the end. So you're allowed to answer this one from Chris before we take a chance at if we can answer the last one from Chandran, because she should just, he or she just asked for a follow-up.
Okay. So from Chris, question came in just to add. If you can't rely on the accuracy of data populated in user tables, I think this is a comment. We add a field to the group table. I'm not above this. So the suggestion here is on your sys user group table, just add the field that you need. Who's the executive, right? Who's the executive field, so that you can just do group.executive is me. That has some performance benefits, right? Because it's just one dot walk away. So that can be really useful. I get concerned when we don't trust data. I've never been on an implementation of performance analytics where we did not find data issues, where something wasn't being populated, parent fields weren't being set, or types weren't being set, or categories weren't being set. I recommend that we figure out how to add some new business rules, some UI policies, so that we get the data filled out that we need, and we have the periodic reviews to make sure it's correct. If you don't look at it, it will not be right. So you got to start looking at it, feel the pain, and go from there. But related to this, sometimes you get crap data from HR, and that's just, it is what it is, right? How HR sees it and how we operate are different.
Yeah, just make sure that you keep pointing it out. Just make it like visible in the CIO dashboard. That's
yeah, it is the case. I mean, I've certainly seen issues where in a global company, I have a local manager, but then I have a functional manager, and I want to see both. And what we'll do is we'll just add two fields to sys user. I'll keep manager as my person manager, but I'll add a new field of functional manager and let that walk up through. I think that's what Chris suggested.
Yeah,
that's okay. We just always recommend you keep pointing it out that this is wrong in the system. Although there are cases where it's not wrong, there are two right answers, right? One is my functional manager, one is my personnel manager, right? I have to have a personnel manager in country at the same location. It's okay, right? Don't argue about it, just add a new field in some cases. And if it's blank and not being used, figure out how to fix the process so you can use it. The biggest thing that concerns me is when people just have a list and they have a report where we just list these 10 user IDs and they're my team, and it's not in the system. So we just want to get that information into the system somewhere, somehow, so that all the systems work. If we keep it offline or we keep it in an in list in a report, you will just continue to have problems.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So let's take, as we close the hour, I'll take one stab at Chandran's question because actually it's pretty maybe simple to answer. There was a thread on the community and it was about is it possible to remove departments from like a breakdown when you see your dashboard that don't have any data to it? That's pretty hard. And the reason for that is that if you have under any of the widgets a data coming in, and if you have like a trending widget, right, and one point in time contains a reference to one of the elements of that, let's say, department, then that department will be shown in the list. And that's the challenge. Now I'm going to have to look at the specific. So we'll answer in more detail. If you could repeat that question in the community, then we'll revisit that. But if you have a dashboard, think of it, and you put trending information there, and queries goes back to the database, and it starts retrieving data. It needs to connect that to the elements for assignment groups, for departments, etc. So if somewhere in the last year, for example, if you're showing data for worth a year, right, there were references to an assignment group that you actually in the last 6 months haven't been using anymore, then still it will show up in your drop-down list, simply because there is a reference there in the data that it picks up, and it needs to show it.
There is one, I mean, if you put in the community, we can get more specific, but you can do some of that. So I'll run into an issue. Yeah, and he pointed something I made. So the use case I do have is where I have a breakdown on sys user, and I want to have a drop down with assigned tos, where I have 100,000 users in sysuser, and not 100,000 people have worked on incidents. So then I'll use a related list condition to say, only show me people in this list who have actually, let's say, created an incident or actually been and assigned to in the last 6 months. So there are things to do. And then there's also some settings. If somebody never showed up at all and they're always null, it's when we show them and when we don't show them. But if we post that, if you post that in the community with some screenshots about what you're seeing, or if you can describe the use case, we can get a little bit more specific about what your options are. There are some, and there are some logical limits, as David was pointing out.
Absolutely. Thanks, Adam.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Joe, for making sure that you also publish some URLs. So folks in the chat, Joe Silver, who's on our doc team, also posted some references to the docs about specific questions that were asked. And there are no more questions that we have open at this point.
All right. So I was going to wrap up. Are you seeing the
I'm seeing an empty slide.
Empty slide. I like my empty slides.
Yeah.
So as a reminder, this session was recorded. We'll get it posted along with the deck into the community, hopefully by the end of the week. And you can see what's coming up for next time as well. We need your feedback. So we've gotten some comments in the chat today. If you could go into this article that you'll see at the top of the community and post what you'd like us to talk about. We'd like to talk about whatever you'd like to hear about. A lot of us can talk for a long time about nothing, so we might as well talk about something that interests you. Next week, we are dealing with, in 2 weeks, we're going to deal with automated testing of custom interactive filters. We've talked about custom interactive filters in the past, and there's been a lot of activity in the community, and we're going to walk through how to set up an ATF test to test your custom interactive filters and make sure that they work correctly now and that they work correctly from every upgrade going forward.
Sounds exciting,
both
Adam.
your upgrades and ours. And a reminder, there are the knowledge labs. There's 9 of them plus a CreatorCon lab. They're available for you, for everyone. Just go into Now Learning. They're free. You get your instance. Incredibly valuable. If you're on this call, you probably can skip the first intro ones, but the ones on hierarchy, the more advanced ones, there's just some great content in there that's not really covered in our training. So if you haven't gone through them, I'd at least click through, read the table of contents and see if it's interesting to you. Some awesome material that is free for you and everyone at your org. Send them to your friends. And until we meet again in 2 weeks, remember, post stuff in the community. Just amazing. You guys are answering a lot of stuff for us and helping each other. It's great. Post screenshots when you can. I want to see this. I'm getting this. Get something, mark up, why is this here? Post a screenshot, post a question. Lots of information will be available to you. Also, if you're interested in something, make sure you click the subscribe button whether it's on the office hours post or some of the training posts. You can go in and click subscribe, and when they get updated, you'll get a notification that we've added a new content. You can see what's getting added for office hours, or there's a new article that's getting posted or a new question. Watch those old office hours posts. You can see the recaps with the decks. You can go to YouTube and watch the videos. Submit your ideas in the idea portal. And again, the Knowledge 20 stuff, it's still available. It's going to be available all year. Don't wait. Go in and go do those labs. And with that, we'll see you in 2 weeks.